In 1969, the United States was fractured by war, protest, and cultural rebellion. The optimism of the counterculture masked growing instability. Law enforcement would later discover that some of the era's darkest violence was not political, but personal. On the night of August 8th to 9th, Manson ordered 4 of his followers to totally destroy everyone in that house as gruesomely as you can. The target was a home once associated with a music producer who spurned Manson's recording dreams. Actress Sharon Tate, 8.5 months pregnant, and 4 others were brutally killed in the home. In a macabre signature, someone scrawled the word pig in blood on the front door, a message that would haunt investigators in the nation. Encyclopedia Britannica. A young man arriving at the property was confronted near the driveway. Within seconds, he was shot multiple times. He never made it inside. Investigators later confirmed this was the first fatal act of the night, executed without hesitation. The attackers entered the home quietly. Inside were 5 people. None were armed. The intrusion was methodical, controlled, and rehearsed, consistent with cult obedience rather than spontaneous rage. Among the victims was actress Sharon Tate, 8.5 months pregnant. Witness testimony later confirmed she pleaded for the life of her unborn child. The plea was ignored. Before leaving, the killers used blood to write a single word on the front door. Investigators would later identify it as a deliberate message, not random vandalism, but ideological theater. Less than 24 hours later, the violence resumed. This time, Charles Manson accompanied his followers, selecting the home personally before ordering them inside. Leno and Rosemary LaBianca were bound with household materials. The attack occurred inside their own kitchen, a place of routine, transformed into a controlled execution site. Written in blood throughout the home were phrases tied to Manson's apocalyptic belief, a coming race war he called Helter Skelter. Investigators would later realize these murders were designed to provoke chaos. Despite the brutality, investigators found no clear suspect, no forced entry, no robbery motive. The crime scene suggested ritual, but offered no immediate identity. For days, the murders remained unsolved. Initially, detectives treated the Tate and LaBianca murders as unrelated, different neighborhoods, different victims. The similarities, blood messages, execution style, were not yet connected. Far from Beverly Hills, a group of young followers lived under Charles Manson's control an abandoned movie ranch. To outsiders, it looked like harmless counterculture. Inside, obedience was absolute. In October 1969, police raided Spawn Ranch, not for murder, but for stolen vehicles. Manson and his followers were arrested, then released. The killers walked free. The break came unexpectedly. While jailed on unrelated charges, Susan Atkins spoke freely, boasting of the murders to cellmates. The words reached authorities. The case reopened. Investigators re-examined evidence. Handwriting, blood placement, language. The scenes were no longer isolated events. They were parts of a single ideological crime. Charles Manson never stabbed a victim, yet prosecutors argued he orchestrated every act. A puppet master whose words became weapons. The trial became a national obsession. Manson carved symbols into his forehead. Followers appeared chanting outside. The courtroom blurred into theater, but the evidence remained cold and factual. Prosecutors argued the murders were not impulsive. They were ideological. Charles Manson believed violence would trigger a race war, one he called Helter Skelter. The theory explained motive without insanity. Manson never killed directly. Instead, he trained followers to act without question. Investigators described it as psychological domination, loyalty enforced through fear, drugs, and identity erosion. The case relied on testimony, behavioral analysis, and forensic consistency. Each piece alone was fragile. Together, they formed a pattern of orchestration. When Susan Atkins testified, the courtroom fell silent. Her words confirmed details only a participant could know. For prosecutors, it was the first uncontested breach in the family's silence. Manson responded theatrically. He carved symbols into his forehead. He spoke in riddles. The behavior was deliberate, designed to dominate attention and disrupt order. Outside the courthouse, female followers shaved their heads to match Manson's symbol. Prosecutors cited this as visible proof of continued psychological control. The jury was sequestered for months. Graphic testimony, cult behavior, and constant media pressure created an unprecedented psychological burden. Experts testified that Manson's power came from manipulation, not force. The murders were framed as command-based crimes, executed through indoctrinated obedience. After deliberation, the jury reached a verdict. The courtroom prepared for history. Charles Manson and his followers were found guilty of first-degree murder. The court concluded the crimes were intentional, orchestrated, and premeditated. The defendants were sentenced to death. 1 year later, California abolished capital punishment. Their sentences were commuted to life imprisonment. The Manson murders redefined American fear, not because of what was done, but because of how easily it was commanded. Following commutation, Manson entered the California prison system. He would spend the rest of his life incarcerated, isolated, monitored, yet never silent. Over decades, Manson gave interviews from behind bars. His speech remained circular, denying responsibility while asserting influence. The family dissolved. Some followers recanted. Others remained loyal for years. None escaped the gravity of the crimes. The case reshaped forensic psychology. Investigators began studying coercive control, cult dynamics, and command-based violence. Modern law enforcement now recognizes cult behavior as a threat pattern, not fringe belief, but structured psychological domination. The victims were not symbols. They were individuals, lives interrupted, families erased, futures denied. Manson became a cultural myth, but investigators stressed the danger lies not in the man, but in the system that allowed him influence. Charles Manson died in prison in 2017 at the age of 83. No apology, no confession. The ideology died only with time. The Manson murders taught law enforcement a lasting lesson. Violence does not always require weapons. Sometimes belief is enough. This was not chaos. It was command. And history records it not as madness, but as a case studying control. The shadows of history never truly vanish. What you've seen is real. If you want to uncover more true crimes and forensic horrors, subscribe and ring the bell before curiosity turns into fear.